Section 30 of The Diary of a Russian Lady. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Shrimpfish. The Diary of a Russian Lady by Barbara Doukhovsky. Geneva. We put up at the Hôtel des Bourgeois. From the great bay windows of our sitting-room we could see far out over Lake Leman, and the distant chain of mountains cut sharply against the deep blue sky. After having taken off the dust of the road, we went for a drive through the town, though I was awfully tired and felt the jolting of the omnibus still. Our driver, having guessed our nationality, drove us straight to the Russian church. A party of English tourists were doing it with red Baedekers in their hands. A guide, who was giving explanations to them, found it necessary to explain to us, pointing out the image of Alexander Nevsky, one of our most venerated saints, that he had been un grand personnage de la Russie, a notable Russian personage. In passing the public gardens, we saw a colored placard glued to the wall, announcing that a tribe of Samoyeds, brought out from Russia, from the government of Archangel, were exhibited in the gardens enclosure. As it was a little corner of our fatherland, we went in, and were greatly disgusted to see these Samoyeds devouring huge chops of raw meat, dipped in warm blood. Ugh, the horror! Esquimaux, after having ended their nasty meal, rode all around the gardens in small cars, driven by reindeers. There are only 4 of these animals left now. The rest have been devoured by the savages. It is time for us to leave the land of William Tell and to push on to the Italian lakes and to Milan. I am glad to leave this country, for the rarefied mountain air does not suit me at all. From Lucerne to Goeschenen, the road is very wild and hilly. Our train plunged in and out through numerous tunnels, and rushed round curves and deep cuttings. After having crossed a bridge thrown over a bottomless abyss, we arrived at Goeschenen, where we stopped to pass the night in a homely little inn, pompously called Hotel, with green shutters to the windows, and a bit of flower garden in front. The inn looked very cosy and inviting. After having lunched upon a cup of tea, we took a carriage with a pair of horses, with brass harness and bells, to make the ascent of the famous St. Gothard road. The driver cracked his whip, and off we went. The road mounted up and up, all over rocks and precipices, and the wheels were perilously near the edge all the time. We wound through a narrow gorge. The river Reuss roared in the depths. Long lines of mountains were sharply defined against the profound blue sky, their summits veiled in clouds. Snow lay in dark hollows which the sun could never reach, and waterfalls poured down the hills. The higher the carriage rose, the more thrilling was the savage landscape. We approached now the famous Pont du Diable, Devil's Bridge, and saw on the polished surface of rock an enormous colored reproduction of Beelzebub, with a long tail and a red tongue hanging out of his huge mouth, holding in one hand a trident and a flaming torch in the other. Nothing remains now of the ancient Devil's Bridge, which our Field Marshal Prince Suvorov had crossed with his army, going to fight against Napoleon Bonaparte. We passed over a modern bridge leading to the other side of the gorge. The spray from the Reuss, which here drops a full 100 feet into the abyss, lashed our faces as whips. The foam of the river was splashing over it. We dashed now through a vaulted gallery where we found ourselves out of the reach of falling stones. It was very damp inside. The ceiling and walls were always dripping. Stalactites dangled heavy diamond fringes low over the roof. We drove against the wind, and great clouds of dust swept across the road. We ran now into a zone of ice-cold air. There is no vegetation at all in these high altitudes. Only the sides of the mountains are covered with thickets and bushes, where flocks of sheep and goats were grazing, under the guardianship of wild-looking shepherd boys. The great silence is only interrupted by a far-off ringing of bells from an Alpine village belfry far below us. As we got higher up, the road was deep in snow, which continued to fall heavily. We ascended further and further, and finally emerged upon a plain with a mountain lake formed by the melting of the snows, and came to the top of the ascent, having reached the height of over 23,000 feet. Suddenly, after a steep ascent, we saw before us a tall, lonely mass of grey stones, built upon a rock. It was the hospice, a sort of hotel, which used to be a monastery. 2 big dogs of the St. Bernard breed welcomed us with joyous barkings. We ordered a dish of macaroni and a flash of Chianti, and started back to Goeschenen. The atmosphere was chilly, and the harsh, bleak wind made me shiver. Our driver, taking pity on me, put his rug around my shoulders, but alas, it appeared that it had many holes. Our train left early in the morning, and we had to be up before 6. We hastened to the railway station and took seats in the last car, in order to see the entrance of the great St. Gothard tunnel. The guide called out, "Partenza!" The train moved, and we went with a rush into the black unknown for more than 20 minutes. A wavering light glowed here and there at long intervals. When the train flashed out of the tunnel, we entered the canton of Tesino. Our train slid down zigzags through narrow passages, from valley to valley. After Chiuso, the Italian frontier, the railway line ran through comparatively flat country. At about 9 in the morning we arrived at Milan. End of section 30.